Okay, well, welcome back. I am Steve Farrell, the Worldwide Coordinating Director for Humanities Team, and thank you so much for joining us. We have an enormous audience who have registered for Global Oneness Day and who are participating live during this summit. I also want to thank the tens of thousands who are participating in on-the-ground programs, including in Monterrey, Mexico, church services around the world, the Global Rhythm Circle, and other programs. This is our 5th year celebrating Global Oneness Day, and in the first 4 years alone, over 100,000 people registered to participate just in the summit. Global Oneness Day is becoming our Earth Day for an awakened humanity. This panel is called Ubuntu, Catalyst for an African and Global Renaissance. Rarely do we put an esteemed panel together like this one. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Anna Marie Petiers, and Sonia Cruz are on this panel. The focus, Ubuntu, is critically important in today's world. If you've wanted to understand what Ubuntu is and how it can shape our world, you are in the right place. We believe Ubuntu is a catalyst for an African and global renaissance, and we'll talk about that extensively during the hour. I'm going to introduce you to our panel now so we can get started. Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce Archbishop Desmond Tutu, whom Humanities Team has been blessed to work with over the years. He is the 2009 recipient of the Humanities Team Spiritual Leadership Award. Yeah, hello. I'm going to finish your introduction. It's so good to have you with us, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Let me give him a proper introduction.
Thank you.
Archbishop Desmond Tutu is a well-known South African activist whose efforts to solve the issue of apartheid during the 1980s brought him worldwide fame. He became a principal mediator and conciliator in the transition to democracy in South Africa. Desmond Tutu is the second South African to receive a Nobel Peace Prize. He became the voice of the voiceless people who suffered from racial discrimination in South Africa. His lectures and writings at home and abroad played a significant role in solving the issue of apartheid. Apart from this, Desmond Tutu has organized numerous campaigns to fight AIDS, poverty, and racism. Desmond Tutu was the head of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and at present is the chairperson of the elders. His writings include No Future Without Forgiveness, Crying into the Wilderness, Hope and Suffering, The Rainbow People of God, An African Prayer, God Has a Dream, and a children's book, God's Dream. And welcome to Global Oneness Day, Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
Thank you.
And can you it's wonderful to have you with us. Next, as the coordinator for Humanities Team South Africa, Anna Marie Petiers has been playing a pioneering and driving role in the call for a National Ubuntu Day in South Africa and continues to do so until the goal is achieved. Anna Marie has over the years also played an impactful role in taking Ubuntu to the global stage as Africa's ancient gift of oneness to the world. Anna Marie has staged a number of world-class Ubuntu events in South Africa and continues to bring people from all walks of life together around the Ubuntu table. In 2013, under her leadership, Humanities Team South Africa launched the official It's Ubuntu Month initiative, the Walk for an Ubuntu Conscious South Africa, I Am Because We Are event, as the highlight of the annual Humanities Team South Africa Ubuntu Month calendar. Anna Marie has been involved with Humanities Team since 2005 and was the team lead for the launch of the Oneness Declaration in 2008 and is the co-lead of the Oneness and 12 Spheres of Life initiative. And welcome back to Global Oneness Day, Anna Marie.
Thank you, Steve. It's such a wonderful pleasure to be here.
Next up, Sonia Cruz has a well-developed faith in humanity. In 2009, she completed a year-long solo trip around South Africa on foot and by thumb. Over the course of 351 days, she stayed with 150 families. She is the author of The Ubuntu Girl, a collection of heart-making and heart-breaking stories from this journey. She hopes that these stories, showcasing the spirit of generosity and connectedness, will assist us in building social bridges. The need for humanity to invest in more than economies has led to an international presentations on the topic of investing in community through using the philosophy of Ubuntu as a tool. One of the most important lessons that the 150 families taught her was that Ubuntu is not about your space or mine. It's about our space. Welcome, Sonia, and it's great to have you with us on Global Oneness Day. Sonia, can you hear me? Okay. Well,
I think they are busy bringing her in, Steve.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anna Marie. Well, this is such a wonderful panel, and I want to just say I've so been looking forward to this hour together. Next, Anna Marie Patiers is going to overview our topic, Ubuntu, and then we're going to go right into questions with this panel. And Anna Marie, over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Steve. So, yes, Ubuntu is a worldview and a way of being that is integrally part of life in Africa and in South Africa especially. Although it is called by other names in other parts of Africa, most people in South Africa know the word Ubuntu very well, and many people are able to give very inspiring explanations for it. And even if it's not always thought of or lived consciously, Ubuntu is very much part of the African culture, practiced through countless customs and traditions. Ubuntu is also written into the Constitution of the New South Africa under the Bill of Rights, and we see it beautifully reflected in our new coat of arms and in many initiatives aimed at establishing peace, prosperity, and unity. But Ubuntu is not only respected in South Africa. Those who know it well agree that interest and respect for Ubuntu as a most comprehensive answer to humanity's common challenges is mounting. World leaders such as Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, many organizations including the UN Foundation for a Culture of Peace to name just one, companies and organizations are all advocating this ancient African philosophy. Recently, the University of Pretoria in South Africa hosted a 3-day Ubuntu colloquium that was attended by scholars from universities from many parts of the world and from Africa. There are a number of definitions for Ubuntu, with I am because we are being the one that is used by humanity's team, and that must be seen from a spiritual as well as a practical perspective. There is no doubt that Ubuntu is an idea whose time has come. For humanity's team South Africa, Ubuntu is Africa's ancient oneness and the integral approach as it is offered and awakened, for example, elsewhere in the world. Over the past recent years, more and more mention and reference have been made to the rebirth and the Renaissance of Africa, with many wondering about the origin of this dream and suggesting that Africa's reawakening will be the catalyst for irrevocable world change. Over the years, there have been the most moving acclaims for and utterances around this dream for Africa and our world. Soon after he became the South African first freely elected president, the late Nelson Mandela said, "Where South Africa appears on the agenda again, let it be because we want to discuss what its contribution shall be to the making of the new African Renaissance. Let it be because we want to discuss what materials it will supply for the rebuilding of the African city. Africa cries out for a new birth and awaits the restoration of its glory. Tribute is due to the great thinkers of our continent who have been and are trying to move all of us to understand the intimate interconnection between the great issues of our day, of peace, stability, democracy, human rights, cooperation, and development. We know as a matter of fact that we have it in ourselves as Africans to change all of this. We must in action assert our will to do so. We must in action say that there is no obstacle big enough to stop us from bringing about a new African Renaissance. During this event, we would like to explore deeper into the concept of Ubuntu, what it is and why it could be considered as a catalyst for an African and a global change. And we would like to delve into the idea of an African Renaissance and a global Renaissance. Is this at last possible? Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Anna Marie. Well, that certainly sets the table as we launch into our discussion about Ubuntu, which is such a powerful word, I believe maybe the most powerful word in the world today when we talk about a transformative word and paradigm. I also want to mention Sonia Cruz has joined us, so welcome Sonia Cruz to Global Oneness Day.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you for having me.
And she'll be coming in here shortly. I want to address the first question to Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Archbishop, in your support for a National Ubuntu Day in South Africa in 2010, you said, "Together with humanity's team, I dream of a new world and a new humanity, a humanity that expresses Ubuntu, I am because we are all one. I encourage you to remember the magic of who you are, to live to your highest potential, and to see that potential in others, to celebrate the wonder of our diversity, and most importantly, to go and be who you are. This is our common legacy." That's a quote from Desmond Tutu. It's clear, Archbishop, when you shared this, that humanity that you are addressing in your remark points to a person of Ubuntu. Can you please elaborate more about the person of Ubuntu? What does I am because we are mean, and what are other things about Ubuntu that you might share?
Yes. Thank you very much. I like telling the story of Adam and Eve. You know, for a long time, according to the biblical story, Adam was alone with the animals and so on. And he seemed to be okay. And then God said, well, it really is not right. It is not good for this guy to be alone. And God brought animals to pass before Adam for him to choose a partner from them. He would be asked, what about this one? He would say, nope, this one, not on your life. And then that beautiful story of how Adam is put to sleep by God, and out of his rib, God produces this delectable creature, Eve. And when Adam awakes, he exclaims, I mean, you know, this is just what the doctor ordered. The fact of the matter is that we are, in fact, made for community, for interdependence. A person who is totally independent is, in fact, subhuman. But none of us can ever exist on their own. In any case, you can't even come into the world on your own. You need a couple to bring you into existence. You would not know how to walk as a human being except through learning from other human beings. And so you realize, I mean, that we're made for complementarity. I have gifts that you do not have, and you have gifts that I do not have. And you can almost hear God saying, voila, that is why.
Amazing. Thank you. By the way, Archbishop Desmond Tutu is calling in from his home in southern South Africa, so it's late there. Thank you again so much for being a part of this program, a part of Global Oneness Day this year, Archbishop. Let me share a next question for you, if I may. There's so many challenges, as we know, in today's world. You've written op-eds about the situation in the Middle East involving Israel and Palestinian lands. Can the processes that you created in South Africa for healing apartheid, including restorative justice, help to create a roadmap for today's world? And what might we say about Ubuntu that would help the situations in Syria and Iraq, the Ukraine, and Israel and Palestinian lands? And that was a question to you, Archbishop. Can you hear me? Let's see. It looks like, yeah. Can you hear me, Desmond Tutu? Okay, we're going to just, we've got a technical difficulty. It might take a second to work out. Let me bring in Anna Marie and Sonia. We'd love for you all to share your wisdom. How can Ubuntu create a path toward healing when we consider the challenging things going on in today's world? Anna Marie, if you want to go first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Steve. And, you know, looking at the problems of the world, I feel that not much has changed over the years. I think about Neil Donald always inspires me so much with he's got a specific stance about this, and he says that we have pretty much still not achieved and gotten that which we have always wanted throughout the years. We've always wanted peace and prosperity for everyone. So even after millions of years and almost 7 billion people on Earth, we still have not achieved that. And I also join Ken Wilber, for example, who says that we've created a flatland. And I suggest that our biggest desire is not to survive, although we think it is, but rather to connect with our divine essence, and our Ubuntu confirms that. Ken Wilber also says that we've created a flatline by neglecting our interior individual and collective quadrants. So we've been focusing mostly on the outer needs of the individual. So here we're looking at food, clothing, shelter, and we've been looking at the outer needs of society, such as education, having a police force, and economic structures, and so on. But at the same time, we've collected the inner needs of the individual. We've collected their drives, their hopes, their desires, and reducing our fears. And we have neglected the inner needs of society, which are our shared beliefs, our shared goals, and our worldview. So we've cut ourselves off from higher levels of development, and we've ignored the common humanity that we share. So we can say that our physical capabilities have surpassed our consciousness, and our creation lacks heart. And this is where Ubuntu comes in for me, Steve. Ubuntu addresses all of this and much, much more. Because we're saying at the core of the consciousness of Ubuntu is our divinity, the confirmation of the sacredness of life, and our inextricable connection with our Creator is confirmed in Ubuntu. When we take the word Ubuntu and we dissect it, we learn that Ubu stands for becoming, and Muntu is an African root word that stands for highest being, highest potential, the totality of being, a total easiness or total allness. So we can see that Ubuntu points to a human in the process of becoming his or her highest being, highest potential. We can say we are becoming our divinity. So really what we're saying is that we are divine humans. In Africa we have a saying that says, Motu Kemodimo. That means the human is divine. If we all realize this and live this, we would see way less of what we are witnessing today, I believe. And then, as I said, Ubuntu points to the human in a process of becoming. As such, Ubuntu recognizes, respects, and celebrates the human in a process of becoming as a natural part of our evolution. So when we realize this, we become a lot more compassionate, and we become loving, and we become nurturing. We break down the barriers between us and them, and the inner and the outer, and we become unity conscious, where we see everything as part of the whole. So finally, just as you know, when we study the ancient African spirituality, we also learn that Ubuntu is a heart-based approach, Steve, that calls on us not only to think with a rational mind, but to think through the heart. This is the most important aspect of Ubuntu that plays a role in the restoration of our humanity. So Ubuntu is a consciousness and a way of being that is based on knowing thyself. When we say I am because we are, it is clear that it is never possible to know the one without knowing the other. This is what Archbishop Desmond Tutu was illustrating to us through the story of Adam and Eve. And the true knowing starts with knowing oneself. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna Marie. Truly, wonderful as you're just giving more depth and definition to what Ubuntu is. We are in the process of bringing the Archbishop's line back in here. We do have Sonia Cruz with us here as well. Once again, she is the author of the Ubuntu Girl and had this amazing year-long journey around South Africa, and now is giving presentations in international forums about how we can use Ubuntu to manifest really the world that we've always known was ours. And Sonia, let's bring you in. Can you share your wisdom, please? How can Ubuntu create a path toward healing when we consider all of the challenges going on in today's world?
Well, Steve, I think like Archbishop Desmond Tutu, for me it's all about stories. So it's not an academic approach for me. And having traveled around South Africa for a year, I obviously am fortunate enough to be the carrier of so many amazing stories and the wisdom that other people have shared with me on what their understanding of Ubuntu is. And surprisingly, or maybe not, the story that sticks out for me that sort of really speaks to the heart, as Anna Marie said, Ubuntu is all about the heart. The heart of Ubuntu for me was a story of a 4-year-old girl that I met on the journey, and she was sort of deep in thought the one day, and her mom looked over to her and she said, "Jemima, what are you thinking about? There's obviously something going on in your mind." And Jemima took her time, and she looked at her mom, and she said, "Mommy, if I go back into your tummy, and then you go back into your mommy's tummy, and then we all go back into our mommy's tummy, then we'll all be in one mommy's tummy. And that mommy is God." And when she told the story, when she shared the story with me, I just became aware of that divine interconnectedness, the same divinity that Anna Marie was talking about, and that it is not possible for us to be separate. So I think on an EQ level, what Ubuntu can do is for us is to recognize, going along with that analogy, the womb, for lack of a better term, but to recognize that connection, that same line that connects all of us inside the womb, that is still connecting us today. So I think on an EQ level, for me, that is the power of Ubuntu. And also on the IQ, or the exterior, or the outer, as Anna Marie was saying, for me the IQ would be, if you look at how Ubuntu has been used in South Africa in 1993, it was part of our South Africa's interim constitution at one of the most difficult times of our country. And it's also in our Bill of Rights. So perhaps if on the international level, if people could have a look at how Ubuntu plays in our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, then that could also be a positive path towards healing and using Ubuntu as the catalyst.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sonia. We'll come back and get more. The Archbishop Desmond Tutu is back with us now. Archbishop, can you hear me okay? Want to just make sure. Can we hear you? You might just say hello if you can hear me. See, and Desmond Tutu, Nanette, we've got a team here as well that's helping with technical issues. Do we have we got good sound now with Desmond Tutu?
I'm going to try to call him back again. He must have dropped again.
Okay. Once again, I want to just share, I want to thank this panel. These speakers, Anna Marie, Sonia, and Desmond Tutu, are all coming in live from South Africa. It's quite late there, so huge thank you to them for being here. Let's go to the next question. Sonia, let me address this one to you. You've become known as the Ubuntu girl in South Africa, and when you quit your job in October 2009, I understand you took to the road with little more than a backpack, a camera, a phone, and 100 Rand, which is not much money, in your pocket to prove that the spirit of Ubuntu in South Africa was alive. And then you stayed with 150 families from 16 different cultures who opened their homes and hearts to you, a stranger. What was it that made you take on that journey? I'm sure there must have been many difficult moments. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that I grew up in a country during the apartheid rule. So all my schooling was during the apartheid regime. So I grew up with only people who looked like me and who spoke like me and who thought like me and whose religions were very similar to mine. And in my heart there was this awareness of something magical that is out there that I'm almost not allowed to have exposure to. So here I am, I'm a young child, and I just feel that there was this energy that I was on the outside of. And I think sort of my upbringing was very westernized, very individualistic, and of course it would have clashed with the spirit of Ubuntu that I found in the people all around me at that time. So my environment, I was at odds with my environment, and I just realized at the end of apartheid that here we are now, we're the Rainbow Nation, and we're supposed to all, gel together and get along. And then I just realized we actually never received the tools for people of my age group and older to actually know how to connect with people, how to even just basics speak, how to understand the beauty in someone else's language. Like in isiZulu, in the Zulu language, for example, when somebody greets you, they say "Sawubona," which means "I see you."
and I had no idea about any of this wisdom or this knowledge. And so I think it was partly that, wanting to get to know the people of the country, of my country of birth, and the country, of my heart. And then I also realized at the time that the vision came to me. I was about 29, 30, and I had the vision to go on this journey for 4 years. And in that time, I think I realized the reason for the vision was the fact that so many South Africans' language about South Africa was so negative. And I just thought that I wanted to escape from that. And this vision and this dream turned into a daydream, and it became so powerful that it actually became more like the reality to me than what was supposed to be real at the time. And so, I just had to embark on it. And I think it's also partly the media, the newspaper headline stories at that time was also incredibly negative. It was all about the crime and corruption. And I just thought these are not the stories of everyday people that I've become to love and know in our country. And I just had this fear when people ask me, aren't you afraid at the side of the road hitchhiking? Yes, there's a small element of fear, but the bigger fear for me is that in this repeating of the negative stories about our country and the negative language about our country, is that we forget that there are little ears around who have to pick up the words that we speak. So all those stories of crime and corruption, we are giving them that vocabulary. Those words are the words they have to string from our mouth to be the stories of our tomorrow. And I just thought it would be a real shame, and I would be afraid to live in a world where we are just perpetuating these negative kinds of stories. And it's also easy for people to live in a bubble. So you live in one community and you say, oh, don't go there because, we read in the newspaper that X, Y, and Z happened there last week and you might get shot if you go there. And then that one story then becomes the whole reality for an entire community. So going on a journey like this, I knew that people would, the stories of people would be in one, contained in one book and would be in one story together. And then people can no longer deny the fact that, okay, but wait, in between the headline news, there are in-between stories. And these are some of those, and we have to start. I know people like this in my community. That's the language you'll have to start using, is to say, I know that old woman who feeds her neighbors' children because their families can't feed them themselves, whatever the case is. So it was about creating a different dialogue around our country and to remind us that the spirit of Ubuntu is alive. I think often westernization in South Africa sometimes ridicules a lot of the more traditional, just more traditions in South Africa, and Ubuntu is probably one of them. There are quite a few cynics. But when you give somebody a whole compilation of stories of people whose hearts and minds were open to a complete stranger, taking a complete stranger into their home, then something, something must shift. And it's collectively that we carry knowledge. So here's a collection of stories of knowledge that doesn't just come from one source. So I think that was probably what made me go on the journey more than anything else.
Wow, what a life-changing journey, and I love some of the words you used to sum it up, that we might, in the storytelling that you heard, maybe we're between journeys here as we envision what Ubuntu is in its fullness, and we see what life is like today. So truly beautiful, Sonia. Thank you. Let me share, by the way, for some of the listeners, English is a second language, so if possible, if we can just speak slowly here, it'll be helpful for people. I think Archbishop Desmond Tutu, are you with us now?
Yes, I'm sorry I disappeared.
Yeah,
I'm back. Yes, thank you.
Let me share. This is, again, it's in the evening now, so Desmond Tutu's normal assistants can't be with him, so he is giving of his time and really handling all of the the technical difficulties himself with a little assistance from Nick Kennedy, who's calling out to him. But thank you so much for bearing with us and for being part of this program. We're so grateful.
It's a great privilege, and I mean, Sonia's story is just superb. I mean, it's heartwarming, and she's a tremendous person.
Well, thank you. We're honored, candidly, just very, very honored to be here with you. Let me, if I may, Archbishop, direct the next question to you. There's so many challenges in today's world, and you've written, not too long ago wrote an op-ed in, I think it was the New York Times, about the situation in the Middle East involving Israel and Palestinian lands. And so let me ask this question. Can the processes that you created in South Africa for healing apartheid, including restorative justice, help to create a roadmap for today's world, and what can Ubuntu help us with situations, this paradigm of Ubuntu help us with situations like Syria and Iraq, the Ukraine, Israel, and Palestinian lands?
Yes, I mean, I'm quite categorical about this, that yes, all of us, I mean, have got in us the genes that say we're made for togetherness, and that we are made for being compassionate and caring. All of these other things that happen are contrary to the nature that God has given us. I mean, you know that a mother is very caring, very cuddly, but it's mothers everywhere who are that way. It is human beings everywhere. You know, Nelson Mandela likes saying, we don't come into the world hating. We learn how to hate because we are made naturally for community. And that's why a human baby takes so long growing to be able to be cared for, and in that caring, we too become the better people that God wants us to be. You know. Well, I mean, Sonia is a wonderful example of it. That in a country where crime, the rates are very high, very worrying, that when she went out there, with all of the barriers that have been there previously because of a racist ideology, she showed what people naturally are. But we are caring because we are made in the image of one who is love.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just writing notes. Beautiful. What a hopeful what a hopeful vision to share, Archbishop. I love that. That these universal values of compassion and caring, these things that Ubuntu are, the nature of God, the nature that God has given us. You're saying, of course, we can apply these things around the world. We need but get started. So beautiful. Let me direct the next question to you again, if I may, Archbishop. When we think of Africa, we often think of spirit, and of course, people from Africa are vibrant. Is there any connection between Ubuntu and the sacred or divine, and if so, how? And I think you kind of referenced that a little bit here in your last statement where you were sharing we are made in the likeness and image of God.
Yeah. The point is that, the God in whose image we are made is a God who is, in fact, community. Christians speak of God as being a trinity. That is, God is not sort of singular in that way. God is community, because God is love, and our pattern of loving is that when you love another, and the Christian teaching is that in the Godhead is community. God, we say Father, loving Son, from all eternity, God pouring out all of God's being onto Son, and the Son returning in equal measure from all eternity. And one of the wonderful things is, and that which binds Father and Son is God, the Holy Spirit. But God did not need us. Fantastic. God created us because God wanted us. And having wanted us, God pours all of God's love. God doesn't give just a bit of God. When God comes to indwell us, it is all of God that, you and I are this fantastic thing that we are, in fact, God carriers. And so, in a very real sense, injustice, oppression, all of the ghastly things that we do to one another are not merely wrong, which they are not just painful, which they are, but they are actually deeply blasphemous, because it is like a spitting in the face of God when we treat others as if they were less than who they are.
Truly beautiful. St. Paul's quote that we are all God carriers, and I remember reading that when I read your book, God Has a Dream, which is a very profound book. So beautiful. Thank you so much, Archbishop, for sharing. And I'm going to just now bring in Sonia and Anna Marie a little more. Sonia, I want to go back to your journey. If you could sum up, what were the most important things that you came to learn about us as humanity, and especially the people of your country, South Africa, and as you think we need to be reminded so that we can break down the illusory barriers that we create between ourselves and others that could help us resolve the many challenges that we continue to be faced with. What insight might you share with us there, Sonia?
One of the things that was evident was all the families that took me in. Here, a stranger comes knocking on your door. You have no idea whether this person might want to leave through the window with your silver candlestick in the middle of the night. Was a faith in our humanity and was trust. And they taught me that Ubuntu is not about my space or your space. Ubuntu is about our space. And the journey was discovering and exploring how we can better use that space, that our space, to share in one another's stories with open hearts and open minds. It was also a lesson in learning to ask for help. I think a lot of the problems in the world could be eliminated if we just could acknowledge that we actually don't know what we're doing sometimes, or that we as the Archbishop Desmond Tutu said, I have a gift that you don't have, and you have a gift that I don't have. And if we can come together and share those gifts, and to also understand fully that the platform that we create for one another's voices does not judge. There should be space for all our voices, regardless of age, regardless of our frame of reference, regardless of our religious persuasions. I have a friend, a Muslim friend, who says what this journey can teach us is that we can move closer together. We can experience Ubuntu through one another's cultures. We can open our religious, cultural, and value bases to one another and learn that we are Ubuntu ourselves. We don't have to read about it in a book. And that was also profoundly touching, because as Anna-Marie pointed out much earlier, Ubuntu is also an internal journey. And Ubuntu, also that space that we create for one another's voices, should also not, should allow for voices of people regardless of our professions. I came across a street vendor once, and he said to me, our blood is all the same color, and blood is life. So if our blood is the same, then we have the same life. Yes, we share life, even if we want to know, and even if we want to ignore it. And that came from a street vendor by the name of Keystone. The platform that we create must be created regardless of whether we have the answers or not, regardless of whether we are conscious of our place within the universe, regardless of, or perhaps even because of the journey of reconciliation that we as South Africans are still on. Ivy Mabocha, one of my hosts in the Limpopo province of South Africa, said to me that we can learn from this journey, Sonia. It was an eye-opener for me that someone from your culture would stay with people from all cultures. Even myself, I still feel inferior to have a white person in my home. This journey succeeded because we all believed in it. This journey in South Africa succeeded not because I went out there and did this. This journey succeeded because the people in South Africa wanted this journey to succeed, and the people in South Africa had hope, enough hope to make this journey succeed. And yeah, it was all about our space, not your space and my space.
So beautiful, Sonia. Gosh, thank you so much. And we keep coming back to the really profound and important themes that are part of Global Oneness Day, this whole aspect of awakening and embodying Ubuntu and oneness. Beautiful. And as you all are talking about Ubuntu, too, I'm just reminded of our incredible trip down to South Africa. The Humanities Team Global Council, which again is our highest leadership body, was in South Africa in the spring of 2009. That's when we gave Archbishop Desmond Tutu our Spiritual Leadership Award, and then we were down again here just in July this year, and we gave our Spiritual Leadership Award posthumously to Nelson Mandela. And Ubuntu, of course, is the thing, that this transformative paradigm that is so powerful and important. And these two men just have done such amazing things with it. And Sonia, you and Anna Marie, and of course there's so many others that are doing powerful work. But we'll talk more about that here before we end the program. We've only got 16 more minutes. I wish we had a few hours, because Ubuntu is a paradigm that is transformative. It's very, very important in today's world. Anna Marie, I'd like to go to you next, if I may. You are known for your deep respect and love for Ubuntu, especially from a spiritual perspective. You also have a great interest in ancient African cosmology, symbols, myth, and stories, which we have come back to many times here in Africa. Can you share a little more about this and how you see these playing a role in Ubuntu as being a catalyst for an African and global renaissance?
Thank you, Steve. Yes, That's absolutely true. It is true that I have been absolutely liberated and inspired by the spirituality of Ubuntu, especially as it originates from ancient Ethiopia and Egypt. You know, when I got to know about Ubuntu, I wanted to know, you know, where does this idea come from? You know, that's typically me. You know, I wanted to understand it. And as we have heard, Ubuntu is all about story, the myth and the magic and the symbols, it's the rhythm and the rhyme and all the things that we have discussed. And we have heard that Ubuntu is about love, and this leads me to the powerful story of the African goddess Ma'at, which by many is seen as the origin of Ubuntu. This is where, you know, when we look at the origin of the values and principles of Ubuntu, it leads you to the story of Ma'at and everything else that Ubuntu is all about and originates from. But in any case, Ma'at is said to be the feminine counterpart for thought and regarded as the goddess for truth, law, order and justice. And when we enter the story of Ma'at, we find her typically with a headband, with a feather in her hair, this being the symbol for truth, and she carries a waz scepter, which is a symbol for power in the other hand, and an ark in the other, which is a symbol for eternal life, which we can also call oneness. Now, Ma'at also has a scale, and as it was her duty to determine if a person would have eternal life or not when she dies, or he or she dies, to do this, the heart of the person would be placed on one side of the scale, and on the other side of the scale, the feather, which stands for truth. So what we're really saying here is that for us to have eternal life, for us to be in oneness, for us to have Ubuntu, is to have a heart as light as a feather. So to live in the truth, this, which is love, this is really what is happening through the story. For me, all we ever need to know to change the world is the story of Ma'at or Ubuntu. All we need to know is the meaning of her symbols and the respect for the universal laws that Ubuntu is based about. We also see Ma'at portrayed, many pictures with, having wings that points to Ma'at as connecting the heavens with the earth and so on. So it's all about as above, so below. So what we're saying is everything is the same thing, and this is really what Ubuntu is all about. So when we dissect all of this, this is what I love to do, is I love to take all of that apart and see, oh my goodness, it's all just one beautiful story. It's all the flower of life. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, gosh, I want to just say thank you. We're going to get to thank yous at the end, and we do have we've got 12 more minutes, but it's just been so powerful listening to these things that you're sharing about Ubuntu, that truly the whole world can benefit in understanding the paradigm of Ubuntu. With our remaining time, and we've got maybe 7 minutes, so maybe a couple minutes apiece, maybe we can share some closing thoughts. One idea would be, or please feel free for you all to share closing thoughts that you have, but this whole aspect of reclaiming Ubuntu so that it can be the catalyst that we know it can be, not only for South Africa and the region, but the whole world, if you want to speak to that. And also, if I could ask each of you to share a website where people can go to learn more about you and to follow your work. Archbishop, if you wouldn't mind going first.
I thought you would say, well, he's old and he should be put last. I have been amazed at what we human beings can be. You know, there's a great deal of awfulness in the world, but there's also a great deal, an incredible amount of goodness that we sometimes miss out in our maybe anger, being flustered. Just look at the fact that, I mean, we were facing this epidemic of Ebola, isn't it? And I know that it's been mentioned already. From this country, South Africa, a country where white people were thought to be, or they thought themselves to be superior, and so forth and so on. That it's been people from here, white people, who have gone as maybe as doctors or medical personnel to the countries that have been affected by this epidemic. And we have so many instances of goodness that happens. I mean, these people who go to the Ebola-infested countries are not looking for any kudos. They go hoping, that they will be able to bring relief to people. And you can, I think that we can go right around the world and find instances of people carrying out acts of compassion, of caring, of generosity. And I have sometimes said I really get upset with papers, the newspapers, or the media generally, that they delight in, for instance, telling stories of, say, young people who go astray. And I say, but you know what? I have been in many poverty-stricken parts of the world, and young people from affluent countries who needn't have done any of this kind of thing have left the comfort of their homes to go and work in remote, out-of-the-way places, building schools, teaching, and there are many of such young people, wonderfully caring, and we don't tell those stories, or if those stories are told, they don't get the same kind of splash as the stories of kids who go astray. I say we tend to do that with other things as well. In our country here, South Africa, just now, we having problems about poverty and wealth, whereas previously you could say almost without any fear of contradiction, the wealthy would have been white people and the blacks would have been deprived. Now it isn't so. There are quite a few, maybe not even few, quite a lot of blacks who have become very, very wealthy. And the gap between rich and poor is the worst in the world in our country. There are not many stories that are being told about Afrikaner farmers who, of their own volition, are giving portions of their farms, helping black farm workers to cultivate and even to market their produce. There are some beautiful stories that we do not tell sufficiently, and the result is people getting despondent because the bad things are the ones that get to be sensationalized and get the banner headlines, and these good things that are happening all over the place hardly get a mention. And I think, that we do ourselves a very great disservice, because each one of us actually is made for goodness. We are made for goodness. And that is the end to which God is seeking us to be moving, to the end where we're generous as God is generous, we're compassionate as God is compassionate, we're loving as God is loving. We are created in the image of God after all.
So stunning,
Yeah.
Archbishop. Wow, I feel like we're kind of sitting around a fire here, listening to you, and such a hopeful, positive, hopeful, and true, vision that you're sharing. And I think the richness of Ubuntu is this transformative paradigm that's here for the whole world, that truly can and is, will and is a catalyst for a renaissance, not only in South Africa and Africa and the region, but the whole world. I think that's certainly coming out in this panel. So beautiful. If I could ask you, we are down to just 4 more minutes. We've got a few things to share as we go into the next panel. Anna Marie, how can people follow you, and what website could they go to follow your work?
Steve, I think the best would, I have created my own Reclaim and Live Ubuntu Facebook page where I share all these wonderful, the nuggets, the gems that I come across about Ubuntu. I post there regularly, so I would encourage people to join me there, and that'll be wonderful. I'm looking forward to seeing them there and to share about our beautiful oneness and our Ubuntu.
And the page, the Facebook page is called what? Ubuntu? It's called
Reclaim and Live Ubuntu.
Reclaim and Live Ubuntu. It's a page on Facebook. Archbishop, what site can people go to follow you?
I don't know any of these things. I'm thoroughly old-fashioned. I know that our Legacy Foundation has got Facebook, and I have Facebook, but please don't ask me those things. I'm totally an ignoramus.
Well, we'll keep bringing you to these calls because it's even better. So thank you so much. And I want to just say again, I'm so honored. I know I'm speaking for everybody here, certainly are the panel and all the listeners, to have you with us. We're humbled to be in your presence. Sonia, is there a site that people can go to follow your work, please?
Yes, so it's a website, and it's just simply the title of the book and my nickname, which is the ubuntugirl.co.za for South Africa.
The ubuntugirl.com. Okay, great. So let's all check out
those
sites.
.co.za.
And I just want to say again, I think this panel has lived up to the expectation that was created, that Ubuntu is very powerful, it's transformative, and it can and it is creating a renaissance in the world. And I look forward to more discussions because this was so rich and so powerful, so much wisdom shared, insight, and feel very privileged to be with you all. So thank you so much for being here, especially at this late hour. It's quite late in South Africa.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. It's been wonderful being on a panel with Anne-Marie and Sonia. I take off my hat to you, dears.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much, Archbishop.
Thank you, everyone. Okay,
a gift to the whole world.
Bye-bye.
God bless you, and thank you, you wonderful people of one whatever, United or something.
All right, and I'm going to just get to another couple thank yous here real quick. We're about to go into the next panel. I want to thank my colleagues and partners who have planned and are running this whole program, Global Oneness Day. Thank you so much. They're volunteer leaders. They're doing a fabulous job. I want to also, of course, thank each of you, the listeners who have joined us today. We invite you to share any comments or inspirations, aha moments on the Ubuntu event page on the Global Oneness Day site, and be sure to join in the conversation by using hashtag G1Day on your social channels. That's Facebook and Twitter. If you didn't take notes, don't worry. We are providing MP3s, transcripts, and CDs on the upgrade page on the Global Oneness Day site, and I know I'm going to go find transcripts for this panel for sure. Next up is a panel called Oneness in the 12 Spheres of Life. It's with Barbara Marx Hubbard, Anna Marie Patiers, and Juan Carlos Caton. It's being moderated by Barbara Fields. It's a fabulous panel that's talking about oneness emerging in parts of the world. Two of the people, Barbara Marx Hubbard and Juan Carlos Caton, are calling in from Monterrey, Mexico, where they're with a group of over 6,000 people, including over 1,000 students. And the panel will also be talking about how we're creating tangible operating models for oneness in all of the spheres of life. So you don't want to miss this panel. Before we begin, we're going to be silent for 10 seconds so we can experience connection with the divine and each other. Then we'll begin the panel. Let's go ahead and start our oneness moment now.